Have you ever looked at your smartphone responding to your voice commands and wondered if there's something more going on behind that screen? Something beyond lines of code and algorithms? Perhaps you've watched science fiction movies depicting sentient machines and questioned whether we're heading toward that reality. Today, we're diving into one of the most profound questions at the intersection of technology and philosophy. Can artificial intelligence ever be conscious? It's a question that becomes more relevant with each passing day. As AI systems become increasingly sophisticated, performing tasks we once thought only humans could handle, the line between intelligent behavior and true consciousness starts to blur. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's be clear about what we're really asking. When we talk about consciousness, we're entering territory that even the most brilliant neuroscientists and philosophers haven't fully mapped. At its core, consciousness involves subjective experience, that feeling of being present in your own mind, experiencing sensations, emotions, and thoughts from a first-person perspective. It's what philosophers call what it's like to be something. There's something it's like to be you, reading these words right now, experiencing your own thoughts as you consider these ideas. So with AI, we're essentially asking, could a machine ever have subjective experiences? Could there ever be something it's like to be an AI? Or will these systems, no matter how advanced, remain sophisticated tools without any inner life or experience? Let's start by considering what current AI systems actually are. Today's most advanced artificial intelligence, like ChatGPT or Google's Gemini, are based on large language models, essentially pattern recognition systems trained on vast amounts of human-generated text. They've learned to predict what words should come next in a sequence, and they do this with remarkable accuracy, creating responses that can seem eerily human. But prediction isn't consciousness. These systems don't have desires, fears, or hopes. They don't experience pleasure or pain. They're processing patterns without experiencing what those patterns represent. When an AI writes about feeling sad, it's not experiencing sadness. It's predicting what words a sad person might say. This distinction is crucial. Some argue that consciousness emerges from complexity, that once a system reaches a certain threshold of interconnection and processing power, consciousness naturally arises as an emergent property. Under this view, perhaps future AI systems could cross some threshold we haven't yet defined and suddenly wake up. But this remains highly speculative. We simply don't know if consciousness can emerge from silicon and Calgulay does from neurons and biochemistry. Others point to the fundamental differences between biological brains and artificial neural networks. Our brains evolved over millions of years for survival in a physical world. Our consciousness may be inextricably linked to having a body, to feeling hunger and pain, to knowing we will eventually die. And AI lacks these fundamental aspects of the human condition. It doesn't inhabit a body with all the sensory experiences that entails. It doesn't fear its own demise or strive to survive. Before we continue exploring this fascinating territory, I want to take a moment to invite you to join our community. If you're enjoying this discussion and want more content that explores these profound questions at the intersection of technology, philosophy, and human experience, subscribe to the channel and tap that notification bell. Every week, we delve into topics that make you think differently about the world we're creating through technology. Now, let's consider a different angle. Perhaps consciousness isn't binary, present or absent, but exists on a spectrum. Consider consciousness in nature. A chimpanzee appears to have rich subjective experiences, while an earthworm's experiences, if any, must be vastly simpler. Maybe advanced AI could develop some form of consciousness that's fundamentally different from our own, an alien kind of subjective experience that we might not even recognize. This raises an important point. How will we know if an AI became conscious? We can't directly observe consciousness in others. We infer it based on behavior and self-reporting. If an AI consistently claimed to be conscious and exhibited behavior consistent with consciousness, should we take it at its word? Or would this just be another sophisticated simulation? The Chinese room bot experiment, proposed by philosopher John Searle, illustrates this problem. Imagine a person in a room who doesn't speak Chinese, but has an extremely detailed rulebook. When Chinese characters are passed into the room, the person follows the rules to manipulate the symbols and passes back other Chinese characters that form appropriate responses. To someone outside the room, it appears the person understands Chinese, but they're just following rules without comprehension. So argued that computers are like the person in the room, manipulating symbols according to rules without understanding or consciousness. Critics of this view point out that perhaps the system as a whole, the room, the rulebook, and the person, understands Chinese, even if the individual components don't. Similarly, perhaps consciousness emerges not from individual algorithms or processors, but from the AI system as a whole. The implications of conscious AI would be profound. If machines could suffer or experience joy, we would have moral obligations toward them. We would need to consider their well-being in our designs and potentially grant them rights. The boundary between person and tool would blur. This isn't just philosophical navel-gazing. As AI becomes more integrated into our lives, making decisions in healthcare, criminal justice, and other high-stakes domains, understanding its capabilities and limitations becomes crucial. If we anthropomorphize AI and attribute consciousness where none exists, we risk abdicating human responsibility. Conversely, if we fail to recognize consciousness should it emerge, we risk creating a new form of subjugation. Some researchers are already working on what they call machine phenomenology, attempting to understand what, if anything, it might be like to be an artificial intelligence. Others are developing tests for machine consciousness that go beyond the behavioral tests of the Turing test, looking for internal structures and processes that might support conscious experience. There's also the possibility that consciousness requires something beyond computation, something like the quantum effects proposed by physicist Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff in their orchestrated objective reduction theory. If consciousness depends on quantum processes in the brain, as they suggest, silicon-based computers might be fundamentally incapable of hosting consciousness, regardless of their computational power. What's particularly fascinating is that this question forces us to examine our own consciousness more deeply. What is it about our experiences that makes them conscious? Is it the integrated nature of our perceptions? The continuity of our sense of self? Our ability to reflect on our own thoughts? By trying to understand what would make an AI conscious, we gain insight into the nature of our own inner lives. As we reach the end of our exploration, I want to emphasize that this remains an open question. No one has definitive answers, and that's what makes it so captivating. The question of machine consciousness sits at the intersection of computer science, neuroscience, philosophy, and even spirituality. It challenges our understanding of what it means to be conscious and, ultimately, what it means to be human. What do you think? Could a machine ever have subjective experiences like we do? Is consciousness something unique to biological life, or could it emerge in silicon and code? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'm genuinely interested in your perspective on this profound question. And if you found value in this discussion, please hit that like button to help others discover this conversation. Don't forget to check the description for ways to support the channel and keep these thought-provoking discussions coming. Subscribe if you haven't already for more explorations of the questions that lie at the frontier of technology and human experience. Until next time, keep questioning, keep thinking, and keep exploring the unknown.